You're one of the most secretive guys I know.
Daniel Weinand, co-founder of e-commerce giant Shopify, a designer, builder of culture, and one of the most quietly influential creatives in tech.
When we talked about this, we figured out during the phone call, this is going to be the holy grail.
His story goes far beyond Shopify, and today he opens up about what comes after a huge exit.
This is The Exit with Adrian Salomonovich, brought to you by The Exit Group and Morgan Stanley.
You're one of the most secretive guys I know. You founded one of the biggest companies, if the biggest company in Canada, built Shopify from the ground up, and you're stealth mode. We've been friends for over a decade, but I want to get the audience to get to know you better. And maybe we'll start off, let's go right to the beginning. 2006, Shopify is kind of coming off the ground.
Yeah.
Why don't we start there? Can you tell us how you started Shopify?
Well, Tobi, good friend of mine, we go way back in Germany. We used to be roommates, and he moved to Canada. And then I got a call from him, and he said, "Look, I have this idea. We have the snowboard store, but need to pivot into something else because they're not going to sell snowboards during the summer." And then he told me about this online store software that he had already created because there were no viable solutions at the time. So then he said, "Well, I have this thing, but I want to turn it into something that's anyone can use." And he basically, when we talked about this, we figured out during the phone call, this is going to be the holy grail of commerce, of e-commerce. And he said, "Well, I need help. Would you consider coming over and help me build this?" And I said, "Well, what are you building it with? What programming language you use?" And he said, "I'm using Ruby, and then I'm part of the team of Ruby on Rails, which is like a framework for Ruby." And I said, "I've never heard about this. So let me take a look." I didn't know the language, so and at the time I was studying computer science and music in Germany.
Got it.
And so I took a look, and I immediately fell in love with Ruby. I loved it so much, and I sent a little bit of code back to Tobi and asked him, "Hey, what do you think?" And he's like, "Oh, I love it. Do you want to come over and help me?" And I said, "Well, I'm still doing my master's at the University of Dortmund."
Yep.
And I was about between 1 and 2 semesters away from finishing my degree. And he said, "Well, we don't have the time. It's got to be now." So I said, "Okay, fine. I'm going to drop out."
You dropped out? I didn't know that.
I dropped out of university, moved countries.
Dope.
Came to Canada. And then, him and I, we got a third person, Scott Lake, who he had on board for the original snowboard business, who was the first CEO of Shopify. Actually, Shopify didn't have a name yet. Scott came up with the name Shopify.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then we just started building it. And it was just, it's pretty crazy because we didn't have an office, right? So we'd be working from every coffee shop on Elgin Street, working from the restaurant that we had lunch in, from his parents' place.
And then you guys got that really cool office on...
McLaren.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the first office.
It was a really cool first
That was
office.
above the first bridgehead.
Yeah.
On Elgin and McLaren.
Yeah, here in Ottawa.
500 square feet, very small. We did the renos ourselves. We picked a horrible paint because we had no idea what we were doing. So we painted it ourselves. We sawed off one of the walls to make it a half wall to make it feel more open.
Yeah.
This was all us. Everything was do it yourself. And we squeezed in, I think, 7 people, and it was very tight for 7 people.
I remember it.
And then we had to move.
That's really cool. And then, so it was an origin story. I didn't realize that you'd come to Canada specifically to create Shopify. I thought you guys were already over here. So that's before we met. But it must have been really cool, just with your friends, small group, hacking away, working crazy hours, developing this tool, and then. I want to get to the point because a lot of founders that are watching this will have, different founders sometimes have to separate. The Scott Lake story, he was 1/3 owner of Shopify at one point, right?
And I will never say anything bad about him. He's a great guy. It was just not the right person to scale the company, the person that the company needed. And he felt the same. So we mutually parted ways at some point. What that meant is we were then without a CEO, right? And Tobi and I, we were on the hunt for a new CEO. And we interviewed a few people. And some were okay, but none of them felt like this is a home run. This is exactly the guy we needed. And keep in mind, I mean, as a bootstrapped startup, we don't have money, we don't have any street cred.
Yep.
Like getting someone really, really good as a CEO is
Tough.
next to impossible,
Yeah.
right? Because someone has to really buy into the idea. So then after a while we said, you know what, like let's just put you in the CEO chair. Tobi's
And it worked out. I mean,
Tobi sacrificed himself to do that, and thank God, because he ended up being really good at it.
Yeah.
But it is a sacrifice, and not many people see that, because the thing that he loves the most is to get his hands dirty in the weeds and like program and like code and like make shit, right?
Yeah.
To go from there to then now suddenly you are the CEO, and you can at the beginning you can still program, but at some point you just don't have time for that anymore. You just have to
He had to let
the,
go of his craft and start becoming a CEO. Right?
Yeah,
Raising
and now
money,
you have to do all
being
this,
HR.
in my mind, in
Yeah.
his mind too.
Yeah.
Like this is the annoying thing that no one wants to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And
I agree. I agree. CEO is the hardest one.
He stepped up to the plate,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And equally, I stepped up to whenever we needed a role to be filled, right? And I understood when we didn't have a designer anymore. We had this one guy that we had as a contractor who, for reasons that would take too long to explain, we were left without someone on the design front. So then I said, well, you know what, I'm going to do it, because no one else was going to do it. And I'm not taught. I never went to design school, but I, taught myself. And I learned CSS, and I learned how to do websites.
So rare, right? So rare to be able to be a developer at that time, working on Rails, and then becoming the chief design officer, chief platform, chief design officer of the company, right? Which is a really, let's be honest, pretty dope title, right?
It is cool. It kind of, it was a somewhat slow transition, I would say, because you can go from developing from, I do a lot of backend in Rails, but then I do front-end developing, right? And then you have JavaScript, and you go from front-end developing to CSS. And then so you kind of keep learning more and more. It's kind of like a land grab of knowledge, right? So then once you know CSS, and you know how to lay out a page, you know how to like align things. Now you go into, well, how can I make things look a certain way? Now I need to learn Photoshop, right? So then I went into, I really need to learn Photoshop, and I spent thousands of hours, like literally. And when I say thousands of hours, I spent thousands of hours in Photoshop. Which, funnily enough, is kind of becoming obsolete knowledge now with AI. But I'm still glad that I know my way around, and it served me well in the future for other things.
I think it's cool. You seem to, and we're going to get into this a little bit, you seem to be somebody that loves to learn and then apply that, especially in creative, where math and creativity kind of collide, right? You're very rare that way. Okay, the early days, you guys are scaling up. You're 100 employees and you're at 200 employees. And can we talk about like that experience of just seeing, like when it was all in one people in one room? I remember 35 people, right? It was I was like, this is getting so big. To go to like, talk about that growth. What was that like to be in that?
You have several thresholds and stages where you always have that feeling like, oh my God, this is getting so big, right? Because in the beginning, and I think a lot of people that are watching this, they may be working in a company of like 7 to 10 people, right? Something like that. And you go for lunch and you know everyone and you sit at 1 or 2 tables. And then when you're 30 people, now you're feeling like half a restaurant. Like, where do you go for lunch that fits everyone?
Right? Christmas parties are 60 people. Like, now things are getting serious,
Right? And then so you go from that to there, and then you go into a bigger office, and suddenly before you know it, you're 70 people, right? And now it feels like, it's like a proper company now.
It's getting
right?
crazy.
We have like people with titles. We have like managers. Right?
What stage did you like the most? What stage did you just feel like was the optimal number? Like,
oh man, that's a good question, and I will. It sounds like a cop out, but I will say I liked almost every stage equally for different reasons. I thoroughly enjoyed when we had a lot of momentum and a bigger company, and I had tools that I could do exactly what I wanted. Where I felt like the limit is just my creativity. So when we were, let's say, a few hundred people, right? And we had to move offices so quickly and so often.
That was the fun part, probably designing those. I mean, you did such crazy stuff.
This was the craziest part about being in a company of hypergrowth and being responsible for the company that experiences hypergrowth. Because keep in mind that my title was not only the chief design officer, I was also the chief culture officer, which sounds like a fluffy title, but what that entailed was everything related to HR, everything related to facilities, to the internal growth. So I was the product manager for Shopify as a company. Right. So that was my responsibility, making sure we grow healthy, we have a good recruitment in place, et cetera, et cetera. We have a team of coaches.
That was cool. The coaches was wild. The fact you guys had the world-class coaches, right. And that was even. I got a chance to meet with those coaches. I mean, that was one of your concepts.
That was one of my initiatives. Yeah, we were homeless for like almost half a year.
Between York and
between Elgin Street.
So that's when virtual people started working remotely, right?
So we had to come up with a program of how are we going to deal with the situation where the next office isn't ready yet, because it's going to takes a couple of years to construct. But before a couple of years, you can't really commit to it because you don't have the money yet and you don't know if the growth sustains, et cetera, right? Yeah. So there's big challenges. So we had to come up with a program how we make this remote work, and we did a really good job. We had these outposts sprinkled across the city where like my house was one. Like people could come and go whenever they wanted. I had Wi-Fi. We hanging out with like a dozen people every day. Different people.
Little satellite locations.
Yeah. People's houses. We had, we had a chef at this time already. So they would be thinking about, let's get a food truck. And let's set up at a different spot in the city every day, we post the location every day.
That's cool.
So if people wanted to come, they go to the food truck, and if you're a Shopify employee, you get food for free. But we try to have something to look forward to through all this chaos.
That's really cool.
The good thing about growing fast and the good thing about changing offices so rapidly is that we learned a lot, right? And I have no background or degree in interior design or architecture, or, when it comes to designing an office, how to make it the most efficient. This is all based on my own experience and learnings and seeing what other people are doing.
I want to talk about, you're in now 8 years, right? I remember coming to visit you in the office. I remember we were just having lunch, grabbing lunch, and a bunch of people swarmed at the office. And I go, "Oh, who's that?" And exactly to your point, you were like, "I wish I knew. I have no idea who they are." And I'm like, "Wow." That's when even for me realized the head count was probably in the thousands at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And I could kind of tell you're like, you're happy, but you were also kind of like, this thing's gotten so bad, so big, right? So big.
Right.
At what point did you, as a founder, that's why I wanted to ask you, you were happy at each stage, but at what point how do you know as a founder if it's time to begin thinking about exit? Or what did you feel? How did you approach the exit?
Probably less than everyone else, right? I didn't really think about the exit that much. And I'm not the kind of person that's driven by money. I think that's what most people associate with exit. Some people associate it with this is big milestone, this is a success. To me, it's the day-to-day that's the most important. When the idea of exit was approached by the executive team and it was discussed and we talked about it, I was not opposed to it, but I wanted to make sure that we do it properly. And I think there is a trap with saying the word exit and saying that, when we are going public, that people think this is the end goal. The biggest threat I see to that kind of messaging is that when you reach a goal, now everything feels deflated and you lose motivation because now you've reached it, so what's left to
next?
Do?
Right, you hit the pinnacle of the mountain.
Exactly. So that was a big challenge, and it was a big exercise for us to think about, well, what do we do in order to avoid the situation where we have all these motivated, hardworking, really smart people, and we don't want them to feel deflated. We don't want them to feel like we've done it, right? We want them to feel we want them to feel hungry.
How did you feel when you rang that bell? I remember you were on the stage of the right there with the I guess the founding team and a couple of the folks from the part of the team. Yeah. How did that feel? What was that like for you? Was it surreal? Was it just another day?
It was surreal. It was definitely a cool moment, and it was surreal. But I wouldn't say it's like one of my top life experiences, right? Just because I'm not a CFO. I think if I was a CFO, it would be like, this is the thing I always dreamt about doing. I don't know. Like, to me, it's like, this is kind of cool. Like, I got a little coin from the New York Stock Exchange.
The only time I've ever seen you wear a tie, by the way.
Me. Yeah.
Me. So I don't usually see it where we're like in hoodie mode, but like, yeah, you were in a suit and then you had the coin. And it's like, what was that like? Like maybe just for people, because a lot of people do think about the going public.
It's pretty cool being on the trade floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
It's really cool. And like being on the podium, and I guess everyone's looking at you, and someone's ringing the bell, and like, that's it. And then it gets really loud because everyone's trading, right? Yeah. And then we went to the TSX in Toronto, and I got to push the button to. It's kind of weird because it's a touch screen. So in New York they have an actual bell, right? And there they have a touch screen.
A little button.
And
not even a button, just a digital screen.
My deep expertise is user experience, user interfaces.
You must have hated it.
I hated it. And not only was it a touch screen, it was also, there was no, the affordance was bad, and there was no feedback on when you touched it. So I pushed my finger.
Bastards.
Like nothing happened. I was like, do I push it again?
No tactic feedback?
I don't know. Do I need to push it again? There was a lag. There was like, it didn't immediately do anything. It didn't give me a tactile response, didn't give me an auditory response. It was just like, did I do it right? Do I have to push it again?
Is
it
so
bad
wrong.
If I push it again?
That is so wrong.
Do I close the TSX if I push it?
Okay, note to TSX. We're gonna tweet this at them. They're gonna have to fix that.
This is the problem now. If you get into anything to do, right? You go into user interface design. Now, everywhere you look, you see bad interface design.
We're the same that way. Like, I'm looking at this mic stand. Could it be better?
Exactly.
We suffer, I think, from the same, like just building houses and stuff and personal projects. It's like you're even more obsessed than me. I've seen your hinges. Like you're very detailed. Talk about that. Actually, I'm really interested in that as well. Like, how has your obsession with design affected your building of a company? Did it slow things down at times, or is it what helped project Shopify to where it is today?
I think it helped for sure, right? Like, design is such a broad term that you can. Most people, when they hear the word design, they think like, colors and texture and whatnot.
Branding.
And sure, that's a big part of it. But what's more important, I think, with design is the functional aspect of design, right? And when we design a office layout, super crucial to the success of a company, I think, right? The way how people work together. I think you can get a kick-ass team together, and you can have all these amazing people, and then you set them up for failure because you put them all in a big room with 50 people, and then no one can focus, or they have to put headphones on because they get distracted all the time.
Especially with engineers, right? They think very different than marketing people, and creatives need different environments.
Yeah,
right?
you have to think
really
about you think about the flow inside a company, right? The different departments, how they work together, where are the intersections where people are colliding, where are the meeting points, how many meeting rooms do you have? Do we have too many meeting rooms that are being abused? Do we have too few meeting rooms, right? Is the company not working fully because we are missing something? Let's say we have 20 people on phones, but there's only one phone booth. Like, how are they supposed to make phone calls, right? Like, you have to think about, all these things have to make sense, right? And then you talk about the design. And when you talk about design, yes, colors and blah, blah, like, I know my way around it. I think it's really important. But the most important thing about design is light. And it's also something that is not appreciated enough, how light affects us in big ways, right? It's not just the amount of light, it's where's the light, what's the color temperature, right? Different color temperatures will make you feel more awake or will make you feel more relaxed. Sometimes you want one or the other. You don't want, you don't want the one thing all the time. You don't want to have the high beams on like everywhere you go. I didn't want it to feel like Disneyland. This was really important to me. I didn't want it to feel like a Google office where we have like fake streets and whatnot. And I wanted to feel like this is part of one office. This is not a abomination of 30 different things. And it's important to have the wayfinding.
Yes.
As anyone who's dealt with like big office space designs know. Part of why cubicle hells have that bad rep, I mean, I don't like cubicles, but is what has been shown to an extreme in these liminal spaces, right, where everything looks the same and you cannot orient yourself.
Yes.
That's what makes liminal spaces so creepy and eerie. Is that you don't really know where you are. It's all the same, and you keep going and you keep going. And a good office, you have landmarks in a way where my mission was, okay, well, we have 8 or 9 floors.
Yeah.
You can be dropped off blindly anywhere.
And it's a different floor.
If you look around, you have to immediately know where you are.
Yeah.
That was very important.
You did an amazing job with that. And I also remember digital signage, like a lot of using digital with information on them in a useful way, not just I mean, the offices were truly a magic environment. Like, people would look for excuses to come. I used to look for excuses to come visit you. Yeah. Because I loved hanging out there. The slide, do you remember the slide? That was that your idea?
No, I was against the slide.
Okay, the slide.
I hated the slide.
The slide, I could see that being a liability. But it was cool back then, you were like, no slide.
No, the thing I didn't like about the slide is that if you put a slide in a place, that's what everybody talks about.
It's true.
Case in point.
That thing was on Pinterest more. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing the Shopify slide. And it did get copied a lot. It was gimmicky, but at the time we were kind of, you have evolved the design of that place from those offices, just kept getting crazier and crazier in a good way. Right?
I just got tired because my title was Chief Culture Officer. People associated I want to say fun things like a slide with this is the culture of the place.
That must have been the end.
And frankly, I was just tired of answering these questions in interviews where everyone's like, oh, your culture is so cool, you have a slide, you have free food, and like, that's not what culture means. Right. That's just those are things. That was a bad question.
Exist. Don't bring up the slide again.
No. I actually know it's good that you brought up the slide because it lets me talk about how those things are not culture, right? And there are things that matter truly, and then there's things that get talked about. And as much as I personally didn't like the slide, I think it was a net positive because it got people talking about us, right? And then you can spin it as maybe it's a little piece of recruiting power that it gives you.
For sure, actually, for sure.
Right.
And it was your fingerprints are all over Shopify and will be there forever.
Right.
What would you say, going back to the exit? So we went public. You're on the next day, everything's the same, right? Or what happened after you went public? Did the company begin to change? What was good? What was positive about going public?
Well, what was good about going public is before going public, most people did not know Shopify. Right? When I told them, hey, I'm from Shopify, and meet someone at a conference or trying to recruit someone high profile, they were like, never heard of it. Or I don't know, right? Once you go public, now you become a household name.
Truly.
More and more people know about you.
Yes.
And that's super helpful to open doors. Really, really helpful to open doors.
Yeah.
I think that was, personally, I thought that was the biggest benefit that we had.
So brand visibility, not just with customers, but also recruiting with acquiring companies. I know you guys started buying more and more companies, right? Because you have the capital, the liquid capital to be able to purchase.
Exactly.
And so the company culturally, because that was one of your big roles, keeping the culture as those companies expanding, more offices worldwide. Overall, things were great. Was there anything what changed at Shopify as a founder? Was there any moments where you're like, okay, I'm ready to leave this? Or was it more just like, how did that, because I want people listening to understand like how to hear their own signals, to understand when the right timing and the right way to leave and how to leave, you know?
Right.
So if that's in the cards.
So a thing that no one has told me before going public is that going public is a very serious thing, right? You have the SEC, you are a reporting officer, because as a reporting officer, you have to be have tightly sealed lips about almost everything that's going on. And when in doubt, you just don't talk about it, right?
Yep.
So that was a big change, I would say. That's probably the biggest change that I could see.
And then, so when you exited, how'd you do it? Like, did you just meet with the board and say, look, I'm ready to move on? Were you kind of slowly do it? Like, how was that process? And talk about the transition. Like, was it something official? Because you were talking back then, but we never got into it. Like, I'm just curious how that went down.
That was a really tough point in my life, I think. It was very, because at this point, I mean, I've been at Shopify for 12 years. Yeah. And this was, I don't want to use the word consume me, but I did spend, for the first 10 or so years, easily 80 hours plus a week. Like, I didn't really have any vacations. Mm-hmm. I didn't really do anything. I did a few things on the side, but Shopify was my life for, a very long time. And it's kind of like realizing when you like break up with someone in a long-term relationship, I suddenly realized that, I was still trying to keep up with everything and reading the news and learning about commerce and I had this epiphany that like I'm doing this because I have to. I'm not doing this anymore because I want to or I love to do this. I just feel like, okay, this is no longer my passion, or this whole area of commerce as well as tech and SaaS companies. I don't feel passionate about this anymore. I think I'm pretty good at what I'm doing, but at the same time, this wasn't my heart. Yeah. And then, so from knowing this to talking to Tobi about it was less than 24 hours.
Wow.
I wanted to sleep on it one night, and then when the next day I still felt the same. I was like, you know what? I walked into the office and I said, this is how I feel. Yes. I can probably not tell you this, and I can coast for another few years, and no one would know. Yes. I would do not as good of a job. It wouldn't be good for the company. It wouldn't be good for me, for my sanity. I would get a big paycheck. I would invest all my options because I had a ton of options, right? I left a lot of money on the table. Wow. And I talked to him, and obviously he didn't want me to leave. And I can't blame him because at the time, I think I had 5 bigger departments that, like 180 people or so. So the transition would have been somewhat challenging, and so I talked to him about, okay, well, I'm obviously staying around to train up people and like make sure that I'm not going to leave a hole. Yeah. But then I ended up getting replaced by 5 people or so, right?
And Tobi, how did he take it? He just understood, because you guys are friends. I mean, right?
It's tough if you work with a friend, right? Because as a friend, yes, he understood. As a CEO, he didn't want it to be true. So, and I think I think it's really challenging because I was the one person that's been there from the beginning, right? Losing that and him staying behind. I can see how that feels.
Wow. Yeah. Heartbreaking for him.
For sure, yeah. 100%, yeah.
And it's like, why? We're going all the way to the moon with this. But for you, would you say you were burned out? Would you say you were burned out, or more like less just not passionate about it anymore? As passionate.
I want to be careful about using the word burnout. Yeah. It may have been. I really don't know. I didn't get it diagnosed. Yeah. It could have been a mix between burnout and a small depression and a midlife crisis and whatnot.
This happens
right?
a lot, man.
It's a lot of those things.
To me. Like, we never use the word burnout.
I don't know, right? It's the same with like, you got to be careful. Like, if it's not diagnosed, I don't want to say like I had I was depressed at the time. I don't know if I was, right?
You're a multi-billion-dollar company, you're doing whatever you want, but it's part of the toll of
but it no longer felt I was excited to get up out of bed
Yes,
and
I know the feeling.
rushing to the company and being excited to work on all these challenges, which we had plenty of, right?
And it's hard if you don't have that mental energy. I don't know what it's called, but I understand. I've seen it a million times. But the good news is you had the courage to speak to yourself, to speak to your business partner, to communicate, and to resolve it.
You have to.
And now,
you have to do it.
You're taking everything you've done, your legacy, and you're in an incredible position. You're young. What are you doing now? So you're out of Shopify. Okay, well, first let's talk about you took some time off, right?
Yeah.
Like you get out, you're like, I have to do this for myself. You had a hard talk with yourself, hard talk with Tobi. Okay, what do? Do you take a month off? Do you take a year off? Like how did you, during that transition, share with us, like, what did you do? What did you actually do?
Well, so it was kind of a blur, right? So I was still working at Shopify for a few more months.
Yes.
I was training people. I was preparing my own departure. So this was the same time you actually introduced me to who has become now one of my best friends and also happens to be the godfather of my son, Mike Janke.
Mike Janke.
And Mike and I, we chatted about, hey, why don't we do something crazy? And he had this idea of producing OTT content in Los Angeles, get a studio.
Yeah.
I was like,
perfect.
I guess I'm free.
You're a photographer, right? What you didn't tell me was you're a photographer.
Right.
You love lighting and live. It's OTT, digital
I love
content.
storytelling, yes.
Mike Janke, ex-Navy. By the way, Mike Janke, great guy, Navy SEAL, straight out of, he's Iron Man kind of, right?
He's Chuck Norris.
Yeah, he is exactly,
He
you're
looks
right.
like Chuck Norris.
He is Chuck Norris. He is Chuck Norris. And then, so I met Janke, and I'm like, I have a friend I think you should connect with. And then you guys are very opposite, but very the same, right?
He's the best, yeah.
And then you guys ended up making Japanese swords together, traveling, buying land.
We did a lot of things.
A lot of cool. I was jealous. I didn't get invited. I connected you guys, but that is cool. And I love that because part of the exiting thing, and that's what I'm passionate about, is like connecting people. I think you know that, right?
You're probably the best person that I know at connecting people.
I just love doing it.
Yeah.
I love seeing friendships and then businesses get created and stuff. That's why we're creating the Exit Group. It's not a plug, but that's why we want to do the Exit Group, to make more of this kind of stuff happen.
I will say there's an art to it, right? Because I know a lot of connectors.
Yes.
And I know, like, one of my friends, he is crazy connected. He knows everybody.
Yes.
And he connects.
You have a few friends like that.
He also connects everybody. But I also, sometimes I have to say, Phil, that didn't make sense. I don't know why you put me in the same room with this guy.
No, but it's
he's a good guy.
He's doing that out of good intent. But the thing is, you can't be gaining anything in the middle. It has to be done out of pure, you are going to love this person. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But you got to make sure that the two people. I will never introduce you to somebody that I don't think will change your life or that you'll change their lives, and you'll both win, right? You got to create those both win situations.
Exactly.
So Mike Janke was that. I'm glad. I'm so happy for that. So you met Mike Janke. You guys did a bunch of awesome projects, right?
Yeah.
Keep going with that. That's interesting.
We had a studio in Los Angeles, El Segundo,
Yes.
Blue Pacific Studios.
Yes.
We I don't know if we want to bleep the name out because it ended up being a failed company, unfortunately. The concept was good.
Yeah.
In some ways, we were ahead of our time. We had some strong concepts that we came up with. We filmed. They ended up not being successful. Those concepts ended up being successful for someone else. That wasn't us, unfortunately. My mistake was I was too hands off. Because I think I would have caught it much sooner if I got more involved more closely. I didn't do that because I trusted someone's credentials too much, right? And it's kind of a rookie mistake, and it's something that shouldn't really happen to someone like me. But when you exit, there is a lot of things that suddenly come at you, and all of them seem very attractive.
Yes.
Namely, investing, angel investing.
Yes.
Everyone and their mom is going to show you their deck, and they all want you to invest. And at first, when you're inexperienced in investing, so many things make sense.
$250,000 here, $250,000 there.
You all see the hockey stick graphs, and it's like, oh, I can turn 100,000 into 10 million.
Yes.
Easy.
Yes.
But that's not the way it goes.
So what's your word of warning there? Let's talk about that because we've all experienced that on the exit. How do you say no to people? Do you have a protection? Do you have a...
Yes. Okay. So I have a very good philosophy myself. So first of all, I will say that angel investing, if you look at the entire landscape, first of all, it's a gamble, right? It's legalized gambling.
Some roulette.
Second of all, you're most likely going to lose, right? And now that I have a little bit of experience as a VC, I will also say that this is just the nature of things, that you have some really strong horses that pull the weight of everyone else.
Do you have a family office, or do you just rely on your, as a being a partner in these VC firms to sort of shield you from, like, you have to have, I guess, somebody to go, hey, talk to my guy. Like, I'm not making the decision. Or do you still... Nobody should pitch Daniel after this podcast, by the way. But the idea being, how do you protect your time from
Okay, it's
from these
pretty.
pitches?
So this is somewhat straightforward now, because I will look at a company, and if I feel like, no matter how good it sounds, if I don't understand what they're working on and I cannot provide any value, it's a no for me.
I love that one.
And
I love that one.
It's very black and white. It's very easy for me to figure out within 5 minutes, or sometimes 10. But if I know, I mean, sorry, maybe you guys are talented, maybe you have a good product, and sure, you can promise me the sky, but it just goes against my philosophy of personally investing.
I love that one.
Right. So that's pretty easy to figure out. There are very few companies that match these criteria. If they do match the criteria, then I dive deeper.
What kind of things getting you excited right now? When you look out in general, what's got you really pumped these days?
In terms of investing?
Yeah, in terms of investing and just businesses in general. Like, what do you...
So I...
Just curious. We don't talk a lot about...
So So one of my good friends, Steve Aoki...
famous DJ.
He said, the DJ... He said, I'm going to start this fund. He talked to me about it in passing, and he's like, oh, do you, like, he was almost too shy to ask me if I want to put money in.
Sure.
I'm like, gosh, sign me up. I'm in. Like, I don't know. Sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even know much about the fund. I just know he's the hardest working person that I know, which says a lot.
Period.
Because I know...
Not musician, person?
Person.
Really?
I know a lot of people. No one works harder than him. And then I don't think enough people give him credit.
He's a smart guy, right?
He's super
dad
smart.
Started the famous
smart.
restaurant chain.
Benihara,
yeah. But he himself is a business guy, right?
He's a business guy.
And he's hardworking.
He's super smart. He works harder than I worked. And
you did work hard.
I work really hard.
You work really hard.
And I don't know where he gets the energy, but he's big into biohacking.
Anyway,
so I
like that one.
I digress.
So biohacking got you excited, or Steve Aoki's got you excited?
So he said, well, we're talking about funds, right? And investments I'm excited about. Yeah. And he said, well, mention this fund. And I said, yeah, sure, this sounds like fun. I want to be part of this, just based on what you tell me about the fund, which is a lot of the fund focuses on longevity and on better well-being and whatnot.
Great space.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But so now he's like, show me all these products, and like, oh, you have a piece of this because our fund invested in this. Oh, and then we invested in this company, and like,
and you're excited about it.
And I'm excited
because
so I went to this place. I had this, I had this drink. I forgot the name of the drink, unfortunately, but I was like, hey, this is really good. He's like, yeah, you're part owner of this. And there's like this company called Neurogum.
Oh yeah, Neurogum. Yeah.
So
out of LA.
Yeah. So I'm an owner of Neurogum.
Oh, I didn't know that. I actually know somebody invested in them too. That's
they're doing
cool.
really good. Like,
that's a cool
company.
Really well. It actually tastes good too.
Earlier, I said I'm only going to invest in stuff where I can like have an impact.
Yes.
This is an exception, right? Being part of a fund. This is because I wanted to have fun and I wanted to be part of his journey.
Wrong with that.
And he does the same with like the stuff that I'm doing. For instance, my wife's company, Nutcase.
Yes. Shout out to Nutcase. It's actually delicious.
Great product.
Andrea loves Nutcase. She goes crazy. She goes nuts for Nutcase.
Cashew chocolate milk in cans, shelf stable, only good ingredients, no artificial sugar added. It's awesome.
It's a great product, and it's cool,
really
and it's
good.
different. It's like, reminds me of Nick's company, Nick Reckenbach. It's from Ottawa. Flow is
Amazing.
Canadian product.
Yeah.
They differentiated in a really busy category.
Yeah.
Well, Nutcase has its own category. I mean, name 3 other cashew. You can't, right? It's kind of unique product, cool packaging, that kind of stuff is really a lot of fun. So you're obviously helping.
So, and he's part of that, right? Because it's fun for him.
Yeah,
and
huge.
So it's kind of, just so I don't confuse whoever's like watching this, that me investing in a fund is not the same as me angel investing. I just want to clarify.
Okay,
that.
sometimes when you're investing in the fund, it's fun. Your funds are for fun, but also you get to work with people and do brands without being micromanaging the investment, right? You
exactly.
Kind of and in your individual angel funds, anybody who invests in an angel as an angel, you want to understand the business, or right away you're out, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're having more fun than ever. Like honestly, like. You're always a kind of cool guy, but you became like extra cool when you exited. Like I really saw you become like you. You know, not that you weren't you before, but there was this new kind of 2.0 version of you. Am I the only one that told you that? Like you just seemed.
I think you're the only one that told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I just saw you like leaning more into creative stuff, leaning more into your photography, leaning in more into just cool stuff, you know. And you moved to Vegas, right? You're moving to.
I'm moving to Vegas. Yes.
Vegas.
Yeah.
And you're building something pretty cool out there.
I'm building a very. Again, this is a house. My Ottawa house is awesome, and we spent 5 years designing and building the Ottawa house, and it's a very specific design direction. It's Japanese/Victorian inspired.
Wow.
But the house in Vegas, because Vegas is in a desert, and where we're building is right next to Red Rock, it needed to fit this location, right? So we're building a desert house. Very different house, but I'm super excited about what this can do. And personally, when I think about spaces where you live in, and I know I'm fortunate that I have the luxury of designing the place exactly how I want it to be. Not everyone does, but since I can do it, I want it to be a place of serenity, right? And you need I'm very introvert. I need a place to recharge. I truly enjoy my alone time. I love video games.
Yeah, you're a secretive guy. I mean,
that's how I recharge. And but then then I can go out and I can go to festivals and parties and do other things and meet people. So Shopify opened some doors for me, right? Just by me being who I am, and I can tell them this is my background. It is infinitely easier, right, for me to get a foot in the door.
Yes. Which is a great gift, right?
Which is amazing.
Meet with anybody, anywhere you want.
But I will also say that that's not necessarily the only way of getting to meet great people, right? Because people will say like, oh, he can only do this because of his money, because of his name, or because of like what he's done. People sometimes give they feel like nothing is achievable unless you have money, unless you have fame, unless you have blah blah blah, right?
It helps.
I think it's a lot of it is a mindset thing.
Yeah.
It helps for sure. It helps,
yes.
right?
And people sense energy, right?
Right.
I believe the exact same thing. I believe you can do anything you set your mind to, but you have to really truly believe it.
You have to,
Right?
Right.
We're just a couple guys from Germany, Ottawa, whatever, but like look what you've achieved with Shopify, right? At one point it was in your brain, and then it became reality. So if you can do that, you can certainly meet with any DJ, celebrity. It starts in the mind, right? And you're proof of that.
Right.
You are actual proof of that. We both agree.
Going back to my wife's company, Nutcase, so she's partnered with a guy that many will know as Ninja, the Twitch streamer. So I was hanging out with his manager, Andre, and Andre was saying, oh, we're gonna go to this nightclub now because we're considering this as a venue for something. So do you want to come along? I'm like, sure, why not?
Okay.
Love to see
this
a nightclub.
Vegas? This is in Vegas?
This is
okay.
in Vegas.
Okay.
So we go to this nightclub, pretty big, well-known nightclub.
Yeah.
And then my wife was there too, and she was joking, oh, you should play a set here during the event. And he said, that's a great idea. And I was like, ha ha, yeah, funny. And they're like, no, like seriously, you want to do it? And I said, well, I need a day to think about this because, I've never touched a DJ deck in my life before, right? So I thought about it, and then I slept on it. And the next day I said, okay, I'm going to do it.
Love that.
It's terrifying for me to be in front of thousands of people and like do something that I have no idea if I can do it.
And you're a perfectionist in a sense, so you're like, I gotta do this right.
I got to do it right.
Yeah,
and
I love
so it got me some CDJ 3000s, and I started practicing every day.
You ended up doing this.
So
you remember the nightclub?
So the nightclub thing,
Vegas?
the party didn't happen. The event got canceled.
Oh, okay.
However, because, well, first of all, I will say to anyone who is producing electronic music,
yes,
if you're not DJing or don't have the experience of DJing, you have to start doing it, because I learned so much about what I like, what I don't like about tracks, what makes tracks really good, what makes them easy to mix, where do they leave space, right? So anyway, it came. I told the story to a few friends, right? And then one friend was like, "Oh, there's this like big nightclub that, I'll set you up. You can play a set there." I'm like, I'm not good, right? I'm just learning.
In your mind.
And this other guy's like, hey, you want to play at this festival next year? And I'm not going to say which festival.
Yeah.
But it's a really big festival.
Are you doing it?
It's huge. I'm doing it. Yeah.
I can't wait.
It's a huge deal. Right?
See, I love that you said something. I'm not comfortable doing this podcast, but I just did it, right?
Yeah.
And this is a whole other level for you. You're going to this festival. I love that. You're leaning into your fear. You're back to white belt. You're back to when you're launching Shopify, but doing it in a different level.
So when we talk about fear, right?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your
This
thoughts
is
on
the
fear.
only thing that, well, no, now I have a son. My son makes me very vulnerable. But other than my son, music is the one thing that I feel extremely vulnerable, because that's the one thing that I'm truly, truly passionate about. And people can criticize anything of what I do, right? It's not that I don't give a shit, but it doesn't touch me as much as it would other people. I think I'm very good at receiving criticism.
Yeah. I love that you're leaning into your fear,
Yeah.
that you're keeping your dreams going. You thought big from the beginning. You took huge risks. You applied your vision and created a $100 billion company. How many people can say that? But more than the money, you're a guy that's has a vision, is able to execute it.
We do all start companies, and companies fail. And even if you know what you're doing and you're successful, you can still have another company that's a failure. I had a gaming company.
Yes, no cartridge, right?
Amazing, yeah. Amazing game, amazing concept. The artwork
Can we get into those a little bit? That's what I want to know, like, what can we, because I think failure, there's no such thing as failure, right? I'm launching Eggs Group. We're doing it. Like, everything's just an experiment,
Oh,
right?
exactly, yeah. This pretty much was it.
Let's talk about those experiments. So can we talk about that?
This is a good one, yeah. I mean, so we had a game, right? We had a really strong concept, amazing artwork. I love the artwork. Probably one of the best pixel art that is around today. A fully fledged out combat system. And my co-founder and I, we agreed on taking the game that was originally supposed to be a Steam game, we're turning it into a crypto game.
Oh, interesting.
This was some while ago, right?
During the NFT sort of
exactly. So
stage,
and the thinking was, because we were doing a creature collector similar to Pokemon.
Yeah.
And we had about 100 different ones. We created shinies. We created different color variations, colorways. This is perfect for NFTs, right? This is exactly
an
what
actual
NFTs.
application, a useful application.
We need because at the time, we were looking at crypto games, and all the crypto games suck.
Yeah.
They're just not fun. They're like, you play them to make money, but none of them were you're looking forward to actually play them.
Right.
Right. So we thought, like, this could be the one. This could be the first game that uses NFTs in a way how it's intended to be, how, and do like a Pokemon derivative, but better.
But fully digital, fully NFTs,
yes,
right?
Right.
Backed by crypto. Talk to us about, like, for all of us that are launching these cool experiments, how do you do it in, like, time efficiently? Because I know you're about efficiency. Did you test it out in the market first? Like, what happened with that? Like, how did you go through the cycle on that?
Well, I mean, so in terms of testing, we tested it internally, but so what led to the downfall of this entire project was the validity of crypto.
Yeah.
And there are things that are kind of out of your hands. When we originally wanted to launch, we had to postpone it for a reason. And then when we finally launched, this was the exact same day as the paper coin, the meme coin launched. I think it was like May 1st, 2022.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is something we couldn't have known. But because Papercoin launched the same day, the gas prices were sky high. In order to mint one of our $15, $20 NFTs, you have to pay $150 in gas. No one would be doing that, right?
Not
Why
then.
would you?
No.
So everyone said like, oh, we'll come back when the gas prices are low. The gas prices never went low for weeks.
You got one chance with those types of things, almost.
And then when they did go low, right, after like, let's say 2 months, people moved on.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No one, like the launch is over, right?
Did you put a lot of money into that, or was it more of a passion project?
I personally lost maybe $800,000.
Okay.
So it was a significant amount, but we also wanted to make good with the community.
Yeah.
With regards to whatever we still had, the money that we did collect during the mint.
Yes.
We tried to give it back. We put a buy order on Blur.
And distribute it back.
Once we knew, this is a failure, unfortunately.
Very rare. That's good.
We use whatever we have in our ETH, and we buy. We have that buy order so people can like sell their tokens. And myself and some friends said like, I'm never going to sell these because I love these. I'm like, okay, I mean, you just know, just so you know, like.
You're always very honest with people, right? You're like,
they're not going to be.
They may not go up in value, but
they're not going to go up in value. But they're cool. I mean, they look really cool, right?
Talking about funds, there's one I know we're limited what we can talk about this one, but the military fund that you invested into,
right.
the
1.9.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a GP in a fund.
Yeah.
I'm also. Yeah. So Glenn, who's the other GP, a friend of mine, we would always walk our dogs together. We talk about stuff. He ran some business questions by me, and then one day he's like, "Hey, why don't we do a fund?" And I'm like, "That sounds fun."
Yeah.
So we started a fund, and the fund is predominantly focused on critical infrastructure, security, defense. There's so many good Canadian and American portfolio companies.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we want to limit the exposure to kind of like the 5 eyes based on like what those companies are and who we can sell it to. In terms of what he can do is we're taking American companies, we can open them to kind of the Canadian government.
Yes.
Which is a win-win.
And vice versa, right?
It's a win-win in my eyes because not only is it good for the company, right?
It's good
but
for the
it's
country.
also good for the government,
Yeah.
right? Because now we are introducing the Canadian government to some tech that they haven't seen before.
Are you doing it the other way too? Are you taking Canadian tech, obviously, and bringing it over to the CIA or to the U.S. military?
I mean, we would if there was the appropriate Canadian tech. There was one company we were close, almost.
Yeah.
We were about to do it, but it's a little bit, the landscape is not as rich in Canada on that front, if I can say it that way, than it is in the U.S.
Yeah. No, I know the spending is a whole other level in the U.S., right?
Well, there's some great innovation in Canada.
Yes.
But then usually people like business acumen or they like something else. There seems to be often a reason for why we can't invest in a Canadian company.
There's a company called MedEng here in town. One of my angel investors, Richard Labbe, you would should introduce. Love this guy. He invented, the Hurt Locker. You ever see the green astronaut suits, the bomb suits?
Oh yes, right.
He invented that out of Canada,
nice.
and brought it to the States. So
amazing. Yeah. It's. It also opened my eyes. I was very oblivious to how slow the government procurement works.
Mm-hmm.
Without trash talking the government too much, there are a lot of things that can be improved. A lot of things.
I agree.
And it's kind of sad because of someone that does pay a lot of taxes. I wish I could just have, maybe I could have an ear from someone that makes those decisions, and I can tell them like, just this is what I think, this is what can be improved. But there's just too much red tape. We are way below the NATO spending.
Yeah.
Right. We are not anywhere close to 2% that we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And people see it as a waste of money. And it's not that it's a waste of money. It's that it takes away any leverage we have, any credibility. Obviously we don't want Canada to get kicked out of NATO.
No.
And the Arctic is, it's a very important place to watch.
So when you talk about the Arctic, you mean just from an ecological perspective and just from a global ecological perspective. Have you been to the Arctic?
I have not, no.
That'd be a cool trip. So that, actually, interesting. Bucket list, right? Let's talk about Arctic. I don't know if you'd want to go there. Is there anything on your bucket list that you haven't done, that you want to do?
There's just one thing, I think, right now that I can think of, which is meet Keanu Reeves.
You just want to meet Keanu Reeves? I met Keanu Reeves.
Nice, yeah.
He's Canadian. You know that, right? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
And he's a big UFC fan.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm not going to make the story about myself, but I think we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything's possible, right?
That's the only thing I can, on top of my head.
Easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have honestly, man, you're such a humble guy, and you are the most secretive guy I know.
And by the way, I don't get starstruck.
Yeah,
by
I don't see you getting starstruck.
I think he seems like such a
nice guy,
really cool guy,
genuinely nice guy. We both know anything is possible, and you're at the next stage now where truly anything is possible. I'm pumped to see what you're gonna do, man. Like I can't wait to see what you do with the music and other ventures. And I think what you've proven is that the exit is just the beginning of doing things that you love to do, and it never ends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know that when you find out something and you go, man, why didn't somebody tell me this before?
Right.
Like, what's a piece of advice that you've been given or that you've given that is a game changer that you could think of? I know it's hard to think about that, but like, what is that idea that has changed the way you operate?
I would say one of the things that it's not business related, but it just makes your life better, is to not get hung up on things that don't matter, right? And if you meet people that have seen a lot, or if you've seen a lot yourself, if you can put things into perspective, right? And you don't lose touch, then you know that, you know what, my car broke down. Okay, so what? It's not the end of the world, right? We're still alive.
Yes.
Right? And being a dad now, having a kid, it really puts things into perspective, because at the end of the day, it's like, my son is healthy. That's the most important thing. And like, if some bad thing happened, right? Like, I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
But compared to the health of my kid, it's
Nothing
irrelevant,
matters.
right?
Yeah.
It's cosmically, it's irrelevant.
Yes.
Right? And that's how that kind of, I don't want to say like you stop caring about things. I still care about a lot of things, but I don't get hung up on them, and they don't make me as mad as they used to, because I got mad at everything, right? And I would lose sleep over it, right? I would like carry it in my heart.
You're saying at work, right? Things related to the startup world.
There
right?
are stuff. There are things. I got into heated arguments, right, with Tobi, with other people. With like Tobi would call me like in the evening, and like we had an argument about something. Because during the when we were going IPO, right, during the roadshow, I changed the logo under his feet. And he got mad. I know, rightfully so. I mean, he got mad. But at the same time, the logo needed to get changed. So
was this a shopping bag? You went from the shopping bag?
We went from a 3D kind of a shaded bag into a flat logo, which is still a logo today. Yeah, still the right decision.
You're right. Good
I just hate waiting, right? You know me. Like we could have waited till after. But then think about it, right? If we waited till after, we would have IPO'd with the wrong logo.
Yes, and
so I needed to change it now.
I didn't know that. So that's an interesting little detail.
Anyway, he got mad. I understand why he got mad.
Yeah.
We had an argument. Those things, it's like they sit in you. They're like, they just, at the time anyway, like it bothered me, right? Like, why are we fighting over this, right? Same if you have arguments with other people, right?
Yep.
Now these days, I'm just like, you know what? Like,
who cares, right?
Just
move on.
Just don't get so worked up over everything, right? And I think that is an attitude shift that that served me very well, right? And just my personal balance, and just taking things as they are, understanding that to talk about the DJ thing, right? When I started to learn how to DJ, right? Like there are all these like help. Now it's very easy, right?
Yep.
I've been watching this video of Grimes doing a set, and she completely messed up the set, right? And everything was like a double speed or quadruple speed or whatever happened. She couldn't figure out how to fix it, right? I was like, whatever I do, I don't want to be the person like her standing there in front of like 5,000 people and like not know what I do. This was the most important thing to me. And then I thought, well, even if something bad happens, if I'm not like super famous, like no one's gonna remember.
That's liberating, right? Kind of allowing yourself to fail.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit. Probably people didn't even notice. I don't know how bad the Grimes thing, but people probably
That was
didn't
really
even
bad.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, it was that bad?
Yeah. But it was really bad.
Okay.
It was pretty bad.
Like the reality is everybody's cheering for you, and even if they're not, screw them. You're happy. You're doing your art. You're creating, and most people don't care. Most people don't notice. They have an amazing time. I'm really excited for your music stuff. I'm going to be there supporting you. All your friends will be, and at the end of the day, it's going to be awesome, man. I got excited for you right away when you told me like you wanted to lean more in, especially the DJ
no
stuff.
pressure, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure. There literally is no pressure.
Yeah.
Literally.
No, there's pressure, but
it's liberate. But
it's
there
fine.
is and there isn't, right? I know you. Yeah. You're gonna kick ass, and it's gonna be awesome.
With anything creative in music too, right? It's are you doing something to please other people where you think like, oh, this people are gonna like this, or are you doing something that you yourself like, right? And if you are creating and you listen to the same damn song 500 times and you don't like it, it's pretty miserable. I'm not gonna say that.
It's part of the art, man. Making mistakes, reiterating, and just doing it, right? I think that's what the big conclusion from this discussion I've gotten anyways, is just move forward, do it to your best ability, take pride in what you're doing, and then always be reinventing yourself as you have. So I'm proud of your friend, and
awesome.
I want to thank you also for you didn't have to come to this podcast and share your thoughts with our audience. It's invaluable. I appreciate you so much, brother.
You're one of 3 people, now that I think about it, that could have convinced me to do this. So for anyone out there that is thinking about asking me, please don't, because I won't.
Fair. We'll make sure of it, man.